You redo all this. Absolutely. Bye, Al.
Bye-bye.
Great. How's everybody doing after a long day of workshops? Good to see you all. Thank you for staying. My name is Jim Roberts, and I've been here on the faculty for 17 years. I'm in the Department of Music. I teach drum set, and I direct the World Percussion Ensemble that I founded in 2008. I've taught other classes, music business, music history, music of the 60s and 70s. And I am proud to be your SEIU Union President, which is also we have with us Susan Ladd, and she is your SEIU Workers United Vice President. So we're glad that you could all be here to hear what we got to say. So we don't have much time, and I'm just going to try to be as brief as possible and kind of go through things quickly. I've been a proud member of the union since day one, and I'm happy to be here to help serve you. So just a couple things for the chat, just to kind of get to know you, who you are a little bit. Could you just put your maybe the department that you're in and how many years you've taught? And if this is your first year at Elon, just put 0. But if you've taught at other universities or you've taught at Elon here, just put how many years you've taught. I just want to see what we have here. Okay. Art department, 7 years. Great. Welcome, Eric. First year. Welcome, Holly.
Holly's in physical therapy. Is that correct? I think I remember that from earlier.
Okay. We've got English department in the house. Okay. Computer science, accounting, world languages and culture. A lot of great folks here.
I'd love to see your faces, if only for a minute.
Yes, we do love to see you. There's someone out there.
Yay!
Awesome.
I know you're awake too. I do that with my students.
Chemistry, 6 years. Wow, that's great, Steve. So this is not actually some of your first rodeo, so I didn't know who I was going to be talking to exactly, but so we're going to talk about your union job and how the union makes a difference in making this a great place to work. If you've already worked here, you already know Elon's a great place to work. I would not say otherwise. So everybody should get in the chat from Susan now. She should have put the membership application in there, and you can take a look at that. And if you want, go ahead and start filling that out. I want to tell you a little bit about my story with the union. I learned about unions early in life, about 10 years old, because about that time my father was in management at the phone company in Sampson County, and the union came in, and so he was in management, so he wasn't really thrilled initially. But I was 10, then 11, 12, 13, and I would hear stories about things that had happened. And also I could tell that the union was making a difference in some people's lives. And I think if he were alive today, he would have to admit that that was true too. You know, I also grew up in a small town, same town in North Carolina. And in that town, there were a lot of bullies. So I learned really early in life the importance of being treated with respect and the devastating effects of inequality. That is still with me today. So therefore, I have an interest in social justice and social justice movements and equality. And I actually teach a winter term course called Woodstock, Hippies, and Other Enduring Legacies, the Music of the 60s and 70s. Yes, it is as fun as it sounds. I created this course for Elon in 2008, and I continue to teach it. What that does and why this is relevant is it takes the music, as I'm a musician, and it pairs the musical movements and musical genres with the social movements of the 60s and 70s. So there's a lot of cross relationships going on with music in those movements, and so many different movements. So I became involved in the union about 2017, 2018, and I did so when the university tried to delay our certification by not bargaining with us after the vote came in March of that year. And so I stepped up because I thought, well, we need a voice, and I'm one person that can provide a voice. So the union came in with an overwhelming majority at Elon, 112 to 68. Even after the vote, some of the faculty that voted no still signed up because they knew that this union was their voice. So they signed up anyway. We had a broad support. The Academic Council supported us. The AAUP, American Association of University Professors, supported us. An active group, if some of you were back 6 years ago, you may remember Boldly Elon's Solidarity Collective. This was a group of students that formed on their own accord to help support us and other equality reasons. And there was actually an alumni group that supported us too. It was also given wide support by the full-time faculty. I had a lot of conversations at that time. And every time I had a conversation with a full-time faculty, they'd sort of shake their head and they would acknowledge how challenging it was to be an adjunct. And the reason is that many of them were adjuncts before they were full-time. And they remember the inappropriate compensation and a lack of benefits, and most notably the lack of power to make any kind of change in their workplace. So in short, adjuncts didn't have a voice, and they weren't involved in the decisions that affected their well-being. Now that has changed. We are one of the very few adjunct unions in the South. We made the choice, and we have a voice, and it's upheld by law. And this is cause for celebration for you, and for an importance for you to support this voice by supporting this union, which is your union. So one of the reasons this is a great place to work for me as an adjunct is because of the union and the voice that we have. So that's my story. What is a union? A labor union is simply a group of two or more employees that get together to advance common interest of working conditions. So joining together or acting collectively is a powerful voice that strengthens our ability to negotiate with our employer about our concerns. Our union is called the Elon Faculty Union, Workers United, Southern Region Local 32. It is a SEIU affiliate, which is Service Employees International Union. You might have heard of them. They are the largest healthcare union in the country, the largest property services union, and the second largest public services union in the country. Workers United, which is part of this, represents the adjunct faculty also at Duke University, and they represent the Emory grad students in Atlanta. Duke's graduate students just voted on unionization a week or two ago, and we don't know the vote yet, but it looks very positive. Most recently, the thing that you really may have heard of is the unionization of Starbucks. That is also SEIU. And I'll tell you something. I was not particularly a union person when all this started. But the union, because one of the things I've learned is the union is only as good as the people that are in it. If you have, like I did before I joined, a dated impression that the union is about, Jimmy Hoffa or some involvement with gangsters, then I want to tell you that times have really changed. We're seeing more support for unions right now than at any other time since John Kennedy's administration. So I personally know the representatives for our union, and I have bargained with them on every bargaining session that we had. They are some of the most caring and socially conscious people that I've ever met. This is a modern, above-board union, and it tackles modern problems. So as I said, we voted as an overwhelming majority, 112 to 68, to form back in 2018. But why? Why would a faculty, which is so difficult to bring a union in, why would they do that? Well, the answer is simple. As many of us standing together are more powerful than any of us standing alone. So, for the first time, adjuncts have formal legal power to make improvements in our system, our workplace. And with leaders like you and me, we've negotiated with the administration. We are faculty, not outsiders, and we control the union agenda. We also control the conversation about our working conditions. So this is the ultimate goal of giving our students a better education. And that's what we really all want, is for the students to get better education through our better working conditions. The improvements that we've made take the form of a collective bargaining agreement, which is a contract. We call it here the CBA. And Susan's going to put a copy of that. You can take that home. It's quite a long read and it has a lot of legalese, but within that are your rights. And we're here to help interpret and answer questions about those as well. So adjunct union members will ultimately discuss and vote on this contract once every 3 years. You can't vote if you're not in the union. So our contract was signed, first one was signed in September of 2022, and it lasts until May of 2025. Even on the academic council, the only person that represents you is the academic union faculty liaison. And it just so happens today, that person is sitting right there as Susan Ladd, that she's going to represent you on the council. I was the academic representative for the previous 2 years. So they handle all the things that have to do with academia. So let's talk about the contract. So we've had a lot of things that happen because of our contracts. I want to talk through because these are not forgiven. You know, we just had to work for these things. We negotiated a 4% raise in the contract, as well as a guarantee of annual raises equivalent to the overall percentage of the full-time faculty. What that means is that whenever the full-time faculty get a raise, by law, they have to give us the same raise. And that just happened this year. You got a 4% raise with the full-time faculty, and we were guaranteed that raise. That means that since the contract was signed, we've had a total of an 8% raise signed with the bargaining agreement in 2022. If you were music faculty, then there was a 6.5% raise for private music lessons. And are any of you, raise your hand if you're in the group of benefit eligible adjuncts? Or any of you that? Okay, so that raise was a 3% raise, which was still more than our 4% raise that was negotiated for that. So here's the thing that affects the two of you as well, is that we ended the practice of full-time benefit eligible faculty going back to part-time every 3 to 4 years. Yeah, that's right. Every 3 to 4 years, you had to go back and be part-time. Yes, Susan, you have something to add to that?
5 years.
5 years.
I think in your 5th year, you have to go to part-time hours.
Okay.
And of course.
All right. I was mistaken about that. Sorry. Thank you, Susan. So, Article 11, Section 7 talks about that as limits the number of consecutive years the university may have to do that. So, thirdly, we had a professional development fund added. We have never had professional development fund money. And this is a specific fund, specific for adjuncts. So previously, we couldn't apply for any funds. And with this fund, you can now apply for up to $700 if you're having a professional event that has to do with teaching. That can be a conference or a workshop or whatever it is you're doing. And you'll need to see your dean, your chair, and of course it'll involve the dean too. There's a form. Susan's going to put that form online for you. But even though if you have that form, you still need to discuss this first thing with your dean and make sure they know you're to help you with this process. So the next thing that we got, which is great, is about...
I'm sorry, James.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I got lost. I missed something along the way. I was trying to read Susan's text. Thank you, Susan. I think I got it.
Okay.
Her chat. So I missed what you're talking about right now in terms of work with your dean to help out this process.
That's just if you want to apply for the Professional Development Fund. That is the fund that if you're going to attend a workshop or you're going to attend a conference somewhere, they will pay up to $700 if it's approved of that.
Thank you.
Is that clear? Okay, good. So now the next thing that I wanted to talk about is course cancellations, because this can affect you right now. One of the things that's in the CBA is that we've agreed that there is a process for compensating us with a fee or offering comparable work in the event that your course is canceled at the beginning of the semester. So if that happens to you, they have to offer you another course. And if they don't, they will compensate you 15%. Previous to that, if your course was canceled at this part of the thing, it was, sorry, goodbye, pal. Hate to be direct, but that was what it was. So that was a big win for us, actually. We have access to technology as well, to the library, printers, copiers. Most of that we had before, but you can actually request a computer if you should have a computer malfunction. They may or may not fill that request, but we've made it clear that that's an important need for us at times. Here's something else that's important. Firings. The university has the right to hire and fire employees. That's in the first clause in the contract. It's under management rights. But adjuncts, especially somebody who was here with 6 years, especially if you have longevity, we now have the ability to contest that decision through a grievance process. And that is outlined in the collective bargaining agreement. The school is required by law to follow it. I believe it is Article 11, Section 4, I think. But there's 8 or 9 different steps there that they have to go through, or they could use as reasons. This is again great. I saw people let go simply because the chair wanted to hire one of their students. I saw people let go because somebody may not have liked them. So there now is a process in place. And man, I tell you, that's important. That's important to me. For issues that don't affect the academic council, we now have a labor management committee. What that is that we meet with the administration up to 3 times a year. And it's the executive members of it's the officers, essentially, of the union. And we get to discuss our issues and the things that are going well with this contract and things that need to be improved on and things that aren't covered by the contract but we don't feel that are being paid attention to. And I want to tell you, we have never, ever had access to administrators prior to this. In fact, we were told point blank, you talk to your chair if you have a problem, don't talk to the dean. Much less the dean, we now can speak directly with the administration. If you have an issue that needs to be brought forth, you can come to the executive committee and say, this is happening, and we can bring it to the administration in between the contract. So I don't know about you, but I think that's a big, big gain, because before the union, all these things I've talked about, we didn't have any of these things. So there was a lot of change in the status quo of this university when the union came in. And I'll be honest with you. There are folks in the administration that don't want you to have a union. And that's okay, because we do have one. But let me just ask you a question. Put some reasons in the chat for me. Can you think of any reasons why the university or a company or somebody would not want you to have a union? Let's see if you've got some things you could put in the chat.
Or just speak up if you want.
So they can be in control. Well, that's absolutely a reason. They don't always want to be accountable for the things that they do concerning your employment. They can do whatever they want without any stipulations to firing or anything else. Not give you professional development fund. They do exactly what they want. They can increase your workload. Like saying, oh, well, I think you need to come to this event because maybe the parents are going to be there or whatever reason, and not compensate you for it. If you're a musician, they could say, oh, why don't you play for this thing, because, an administrator might be there or something. And now, if you want to do these things, you need to get compensated for them. They can't require that as part of the job. But really, the main reason that they don't want you to have a union is because they don't want you to have a voice. They understand the power to have a voice that we have. The power to be in a community that joins and fights for everything we fight for. They understand there's power in that. So if someone comes to you and says, hey, you don't need a union, save yourself the cost, give yourself a raise, I have to ask you, do you really think they care? Do you really think they care about how much money you pay or your well-being? Not really. What they don't want is for you to have a voice, because your voice can bring change in our community. Indeed, it already has. So you just tell anybody that's a naysayer, oh, we're sticking with our union, and I'm keeping our voice and our rights. By law, they cannot retaliate in you for any way for supporting or being in the union. So dues, I mentioned that in that conversation. So what are the dues? That's always a first question. Here's the cool thing about the dues. First of all, there's no joining fees. When I joined the Musicians Union in Nashville, Tennessee, I think I paid $350 or something like that just to join the union. There are no dues to join this. And no one pays a cent until the first full month of the semester that you're employed. And then the dues are only 1.5% of the monthly pay. And that's just $1.50 for every $100. And the great thing is, if you're teaching a lot of courses, it's capped at $50. They're not going to take any more than that out. And also, there are no dues during the months that you're not teaching. So, and ask yourself something about these dues. Would any of us vote, any of us that remembers, would we vote for a contract if the material gains weren't much more than your union dues? Absolutely not. So you should know that every member votes on a contract that's been bargained for once every 3 years. So I'm going to wind this up soon. I'm sure you'll be glad of that. But there are two things that I want you to remember. First of all, you really do have to fight for what you want, and you have to fight to keep it. I didn't believe that. When I first started working at Elon, I thought that they would look after me appropriately. But I found out very quickly that my voice didn't matter. So you have to fight for what you want, and you have to fight to keep it. The people that hired you are good people. This is a good administration in building and promoting this university. but they need our support and they need our voice so that their priorities, your priorities, are not forgotten in their big plan. Very important. So there's only two things left to do now. One is, if you haven't already thought about it, join. Be part of our union so that your voice is heard. Even if you're only here for one semester, please support us because we're trying to support you. The dues are very low and you're protected by law from retaliation by the university. So I'm going to ask Susan again to post the sign-up link in the chat, and I'm going to sit here with you while we get that filled out. There is a COPE in there, which is a political action fund. Ignore that. We do not have that at Elon University. So just ignore that part of the membership. Secondly, and also important, this is something that we cannot do by ourselves. This is about your well-being, so get involved. My colleagues and I in the executive committee have been working on this on your behalf since 2018 to ensure that we keep this voice for the university. We don't get paid for this, and we can't do it by ourselves. So if you're the kind of person who is committed to social justice, equity, diversity, equality, fair treatment for people, then we want you to get involved with us. Just send us your names, emails, department, and Susan's going to post our names and contact emails in the PDF. And so get involved. It's really the only way that we can ensure that our voice continues.
Jim?
Yes.
I just wanted to say there was a question in the chat from Eric about contracts and trying to get longer term contracts. And in case people are looking in the chat, I did answer that, but that's a really big deal to us. We know that's a concern.
Well, it wasn't for lack of trying.
Yeah, we tried very hard in the first contract, but a first contract is a first contract, and you have to, you get some things, but you get everything you want.
I think probably every single bargaining session we may have talked about that particular issue. And at that time, the union will not budge. But the administration would not budge. But you know how we can change that? Is if we get more people involved in what we're doing so that the union so that the administration cannot shut our voice down. That's the thing. The more people we get involved with that, then the more likelihood we can change that. I mean, if we get 100 letters to the provost starting when our next bargaining saying we want longer contracts, guess what? That's going to have a profound difference, especially if they're union members. That's a great question. And may I tell you, I wish I could have a better answer for you, but they just wouldn't budge on that.
And remember, we represent, you're part of, if you're an adjunct or contingent faculty, we already represent you. But if you join, you make that representation so much stronger. Joining the union increases our numbers, and obviously a union with 25 members is not going to be as powerful as a union with 125 members. So that's why we're really asking you to join, and we'd love for people to also become involved in the activities that we do.
So are there any questions? Let's open up the floor to questions. I think I've said quite enough. No questions. None at all?
I got a question. Sorry, it takes a while to get to this unmute.
You just take your time, Linda.
If I heard you correctly, you asked us to fill this thing out, quote, right now while we're still on Zoom. I'm not. That's above me. I don't know how to do that. I don't want to do that.
All right.
While I'm sitting on this Zoom. Okay. So if I can do it later, I'll do it later. But
okay. So-
I'm not the most technology savvy person
All right.
in the room, and so I can't even find it again. I thought I'm pretty sure I said to save this link, and I don't know, I can't find it. So
Do you have
it's in the
Linda's?
chat.
Do you have
Right,
Linda's?
it's in-
Do you have
yeah.
Linda's email?
I know, but it's another thing. I don't do everything through the chat. Anything that's
do you
put in
have-
the chat,
do
I don't
you-
know what to do with it.
Susan, do you have Linda's email?
Yeah,
I'll
you
be,
can find it for sure.
Just
I'd be
just
happy
just
to-
get Linda's email and email it to her. And then
You can
all you
find
got
it.
to all you got to do is click on it, and there it is.
and it's not a complicated form.
No, it's
okay?
just a
No,
name.
it's not that the
Yeah.
form is complicated. I just don't like doing things through
She's
chat.
got a lot of
Okay.
technology going on here.
I
So
hear you.
yeah,
We just urge people to do it right away because they don't forget.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's easy to
No
say,
problem.
yeah, I'm going to do that, and then
right.
life interrupts. So
You send me an email, I'll put it on my to-do list.
I'll do it.
It may take you 1 to 2 minutes. Eric, thank you for joining us. And
Thank you all.
yes, any other questions?